So, good morning. Just to be fair, I know about half of you, so just when I say something that's not true, keep your mouth shut. My name is Nathan Price. I am a filmmaker, director, documentary filmmaker that resides here in Fort Worth. I've been doing this stuff professionally for over 10 years at this point. And my journey into all of this started when my parents made the best parenting decision they have ever made, which was they showed me Jaws at the age of 5, which I will thank them forever. Yes, those wise, maybe not, I don't know. But I saw Jaws and I knew exactly what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a shark. And then I realized it's a little too hard to become a shark, so I decided I wanted to make movies about sharks. And then later found out it would have been easier to just become a shark. And at the age of 5, I noticed for the first time cutting. I noticed that the shot, it wasn't just that the shot changed every time I blinked, it was that the shot would actually change and there was purpose behind it. And at that young age, I became really fascinated with story. And by 7, 8 years old, my grandmother had a typewriter and I would type stories on the typewriter. From there, I got to where I was always writing. I was always trying to make something. My parents had a VHS camcorder about that big that weighed as much as I did. And I would make films with my brother. And you got about 5 seconds before the camera just started tipping backwards and I'd fall over from the weight. So every year after that, I would just get video cameras for Christmas. And I was constantly making something. At the same time, I grew up extremely rural. We grew watermelons, we worked on farms, we worked with cows and sheep and pigs, and I didn't really have a upbringing that was artistic. It was very much the opposite of being artistic, which, you good, cow? Which later actually helped me a whole lot. It taught me how to kind of connect with people on a grassroots level. So I learned, I was selling watermelons on the side of the road when I was much younger than that. Believe it or not, this is an old photo. I know I look exactly the same. But it was lots of just learning how to work with dirt, work with your hands, and just figure out learning how to connect with people who also do the same thing. You don't have a whole lot, who don't have, or aren't very invested in a lot of creative avenues. And this was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me. At the same time, I was also making shorts in my house, my parents' house. This is from one of the first short films I ever did. I think I'm 16 or 17 in these pictures. But fun fact is that my parents let me black out all the windows in our house using cardboard and trash bags, and then afterwards they stationed a cop outside because they thought I was growing weed. No. And the short was terrible, but that's where this is one of the first things that I was writing, I was directing, I was shooting, I was editing, I was doing all that myself. I've been doing that since I was about 11 years old. About a year after that, I got connected with another filmmaker out of Oklahoma City named Andrew Patterson. Andrew Patterson had directed a movie called The Vast of Night, which he shot quite literally the same street that I lived on. And it was this weird 50s kind of sci-fi movie about aliens and basketball and Elvis and radios. And at first when I saw the listing in the newspaper, I was like, this is the biggest joke I've ever seen. Got to meet him, it turns out he's one of the most brilliant filmmakers I've ever met in my life. I was going to a community college because I was that smart. At the same time, I would go and work on the farm during the day and then work on the movie at night, go to school in the morning, and figured out how to sleep somewhere in between that. And I did that for about 3 weeks with him. Afterwards, I got to know him pretty well, and he gave me the opportunity to stop going to school. As he said, why are you paying to learn how to make a movie when I could just teach you how to make a movie? So I mentored under him for about 2 years. And he taught me literally how to make a movie from the ground up. He taught me how to write better than I was. He taught me how to cast. He taught me how to do pre-production. He taught me how to shoot. He taught me how to navigate working with people and producers and different levels of production. Taught me how to edit even better. he took me from being somebody who was somewhat competent to being kind of where I am today. After that, I started working in different industries around here in DFW. I worked at a studio over in Irving called MPS Dallas, where I worked in the camera department. I also worked on the stages and in grip and electric, and I got to learn even more of the practical side. So I started working on commercials. I started becoming a director of photography for movies and other commercials. And then I started really getting into documentary work. My first project for a documentary TV show, I was the lead DP on a show called Fourth and Forever, which was about DeSoto football. And that was the first time I was shooting something. I had a camera on my shoulder for about 12 hours consistently every single day. And we were doing drone work, we were doing all sorts of things. And I got to learn how to work with bigger studios. After that, I did things for Full Swing, which is a Netflix TV show. I did stuff with my business partner, Caleb, that was for Showtime. And just from there, I kind of got to grow and eventually start my own production company and do my own video projects and do my own work. Eventually, we also blew things up, which was a lot of fun. Eventually, I ended up going and working during COVID. Everyone was kind of out of a job. I didn't have my job anymore in Dallas. I ended up becoming a videographer for the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma up in Durant. And rather than working for the casinos, I worked in tribal. And that was my first real exposure to working with a different culture and learning how to not only capture a culture's story, but also learn how to kind of assimilate into that culture. A big thing with them is that there wasn't just tribal members and everyone else. There was tribal members and there was associates. And associates had pretty much the same privileges as tribal members. The idea is they wanted to be a big family. But to do that, you also had to take on a lot of the responsibilities of being a tribal member. So I couldn't say hello, I said halito. I couldn't say thank you, I said yakoki. And if there was a tribal member there, my goal working as an associate, doesn't matter if it was video or if I just saw them in passing, was to be the most respectful ambassador for their culture I could be. And that's what really kind of gave me the bug of being interested in cultures and ideas and rituals and things that are totally different to what I learned and what I was used to growing up. From there, I started doing documentaries for the Chickasaw Nation, which is the other main tribe in the Oklahoma state. And through a buddy of mine, I got to meet, this is also, by the way, this is filming stickball. I don't know if I've ever seen stickball. It is the craziest, most violent sport. The men less so. The women, they have problems. They take it out. It's basically, real quick, how you play stickball is you have two sticks and a hard rubber ball, and you're trying to throw and hit a pole that's about that big. And the only rule is there is no rules. You can tackle, you can take people's legs out, the only thing you really can't do is hit somebody with your stick. And even then, they're just like, you probably deserve it. So, very interesting sport to be filming, really cool, lots of like history and culture behind it. After doing that though, I met a really interesting photographer. His name is Philip Halsinger. Philip was going to present with me today. He had some family issues that kept him from being here. But I met Philip through a mutual friend because Philip was looking for a new filmmaker to come with him on a few trips. Not something consistently, but he needed somebody who knew how to film culturally, knew how to film cultures appropriately, knew how to disappear, knew how to be in the moment without affecting the moment. Because it's kind of like science. As soon as you start observing, you start documenting a moment, it's going to change. It doesn't matter what you try to do, you can be as far away. It's always going to be a little bit different because we're really good at like sensory, at picking things up with our senses, more so than we could actually realize. So he needed somebody who was willing to do that, someone who was willing to kind of just go with the flow because Philip is crazy and goes to really crazy places. And that's kind of where my journey with him started. And I got to know Philip, and the more I got to know him, the more I realized that he is the purest form of an artist. All he cares about is the story. All he cares about is the truth of the story, the emotion of the story, how his work presents that story. And it doesn't matter if he's taking a photo, It doesn't matter if he is writing an article for Rolling Stones. It doesn't matter if he's capturing the graves in Bosnia. His entire purpose, whatever he is doing, is what is the truth and how do I capture that without inserting myself too much? Because I don't want to pollute it with who I am, with my ideas. My goal is to just observe and to report that back to people who can't see it. So journalism is where he eventually kind of made his break in his career. He did a lot with kind of military contracts. He was able to get into really interesting places. He did work in Thailand. He's done work in the Middle East, done work all over Europe, a lot of work in Central and South America. And through those, he has had so many different experiences with ritual and with cultures and with different ideas and understanding the difference between what makes something ritualistic versus something that's ceremony, something that might just be purely religious. Where this really started to kind of take a turn for him was that he ended up doing work in the country of Haiti. And he started working in Haiti in the early 2000s. At that time, Haiti was not great, but it wasn't where it is today. And he worked specifically with the government. And his entire goal with Haiti was to go around and capture stories and document just what is actually happening with the people. Something that the government couldn't do. You show up with government vehicles and everyone just gets very straight and doesn't say anything and doesn't do anything because in most third world countries, if the government shows up, people are going to jail. So his goal was to go out, assimilate, become one with these people as much as he can, and document their stories, take them back to the government so the government can actually learn about what their country is doing, what their country is needing. And through this, he ended up writing a book. And the book did really well. And he ended up getting noticed by a celebrity who also is super interested in other cultures and philanthropy. That celebrity was Sean Penn. Sean Penn and him became really good friends and ended up writing the foreword to his book. Later, I don't know if you've ever seen Secret Life of Walter Mitty. I love that movie. I think it's pretty awesome. Sean Penn plays a photographer. He based that photographer off of Philip. Lots of things that he does, the way he talks, the way he acts. He's he's kind of funny, but he's also very philosophical in how he thinks. He got that off of Philip. At one point, they were at dinner in Nashville, and Philip had had a little bit to drink. And Sean was talking about Secret Life of Walter Mitty, and Philip was like, you pretend to be me when I actually am me. In hindsight, he's like, maybe that wasn't the smartest thing, but good thing is that Sean Penn has a good sense of humor. But so yeah, that's essentially who Philip is, and that's who I got to know, and I've been able to learn from for the past few years of just going to different countries and learning how to document and how to capture ritual. And we're just continuing to do the same thing ever since. So speaking of ritual, that's kind of the main word that we've been given for this particular chapter presentation. Understanding how to capture ritual, which is my job most of the time, you have to actually understand what ritual is. So ritual, by definition, it's a religious or solemn ceremony consisting of a series of actions performed according to a prescribed order. If Philip was here, he would say that's not defined enough. He'd say that's too broad to just be considered ritual. What ritual really has to do is it has to involve someone personally in a prescribed set of orders that benefits them personally. And that's how you have the difference between ritual and ceremony. Where ritual focuses on a state of the individual, whether it be spiritual, physical, or manifesting. Manifesting is a key word when it comes to ritual. Ritual in the real world is all about manifesting something for yourself, whether it's voodoo, whether it's cultural, whether it's for good luck. It's all about trying to bring a piece of the world to you when it's somewhat out of your control. The difference between that and ceremony is that ceremony is all about this word. It's all about community. So if you look at wedding ceremonies are not really that much about the bride and groom. It's actually more about the people coming to see them. It's about the people representing them. It's about them and their relationship to God. Same thing with graduation ceremonies. Ceremonies take the individual part out and are more about making the individual part of a whole. So the difference between ceremony and ritual is really who the focus is. Ceremony is on the community, ritual is on the individual. So because of that, ritual becomes really tedious when you're trying to capture it because it is so intimate and it is so personal. As soon as you start kind of interweaving yourself into that, you run the risk of actually changing what a ritual is and what it does. And then the other thing is that the one thing they have in common is both require some level of belief in outside forces. Whatever you call that, that can be luck, that can be God, that can be spirits, that can be the universe, but it requires that you have some level of credibility or faith with something that can control things that you cannot. Every single ritual, even if you're a baseball player, that when he goes up to the plate, he undoes his gloves a certain way, he taps his right knee, he taps his left foot, he knows to like shuffle his leg. He does the same thing over and over, and he may say, oh, this is to get into focus. Well, then why don't you just focus? You have a ritual, and it's because you believe this ritual will affect your focus and will affect how you're able to make a hit, to get on base, to get a home run, to represent for your team in your sport. So whether you even realize it or not, and that's why it's really easy for us to create rituals for ourselves out of superstition, out of just comfort, but then again, you're putting your faith in the comfort, which is something that is outside of your control. So no matter what, they both have this in common. It's more of just who are they directed at? Is it directed at an individual or is it directed at a community? So what I'm going to do, it's going to be kind of hard to see just because of who it is. It's okay. That's a great ringtone, by the way.
It's not turning off. There.
Okay. I'm going to show you all a video. This video, it's going to be probably like a little 4-minute clip. And this is from, if I can't knock something over, this is from when me and Philip were in a region of the Republic of Georgia. If any of you don't know where the Republic of Georgia is, it is in Eastern Europe, technically Western Asia. And it borders Ukraine and Russia. And when we were there, the Ukraine-Russian war was just in its beginnings. And we were there to capture a migration of shepherds that go from the Tusheti region, which is right on the border of Russia, all the way down to Azerbaijan. And we only covered like the first 20 miles, which took about a week. But while we were up there, we were staying in a literal lean-to on top of a hill. Behind us, there was a tree line. They said, do not go past that tree line. That's Russia. They'll kill you. Everything else was Georgia. And there's no power. There is no running water out here. To get there, you have to travel 4 hours on the 6th most dangerous road in the world. While we were there, we saw someone roll off. We have footage of it. Luckily, they did not die. We were able to help them. But it's a very dangerous and hostile place to be. So this video is going to show kind of what capturing ritual looks like. And kind of pay attention to their mannerisms, what they say, the kind of demeanor for things. And we'll use that to kind of to talk about what it's like, the process of actually capturing ritual.
The shepherd. Unknown. Unimportant. Perceived in the city as superstitious and outdated. Hired hand. A watchman acquainted with the night. The threat of wild animals. The silence. Modern shepherd is as the ancient shepherd. You do not need him or want him at our table. But without him, I cannot dream.
დიდება იყოს. გადმოფხენონი, კეთილად გვამყოფო, კეთილდაზე გვატარო. მშვიდობიანად გვეულოს. საგარისაკე და მარით დამთულსა. აი, თეოდორე ბოლტის თავისაი. იმან სათავეზე კიდევ და შუაკე. იმან ტერიტორიებზე ვარ ძირითადად. გამოვდივართ იქ სხვა სალოცავების ტერიტორიებზეაცა და სულ ყველას დიდება იყოს არ ვითომ.
დიდება სალოცავების
Okay, so a little bit of backstory on that. First thing is what they were drinking. I don't know if y'all saw on the table, there was a bottle of like yellow liquid. It looks like it was a bottle of pee. It's called cha-cha. Now, usually a big part of Georgian culture is that you do toasts. You usually do 4 to 5 toasts per meal. That's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It wears on you, especially if you're like me and you've never drank in your life. You get there and basically the toasts are all very ceremonial. They all have something to do with giving thanks for your family, good weather, good profit, grandchildren. They're very specific. And then after that, people are free to just toast for whatever they can think of. Usually cha-cha is clear and it's a lot like tequila. That cha-cha was not clear and it tasted and smelled like gasoline. And reason I got up and was filming is that I had been doing toasts with them, and by about the 4th or 5th, I noticed I was not keeping the camera as straight as I should have been, and I had to get up or else I was not going to survive the night. Poor Philip did so many of those, and that's why you can tell he just really enjoyed it. But, so backstory on what you just saw. These are shepherds in Tusheti. These are guys that migrate thousands of sheep through the Abano Pass, 200 miles to the border of Azerbaijan. And they do this migration twice a year. They do it once going into the summer because they need more fields, they need more area. They go down to Azerbaijan. And then in the winter, they come back because the grass in Azerbaijan on the border becomes toxic for the sheep. So they do this twice. And they don't lose one sheep. They can't. If a sheep dies, they carry it on their back or they put it in a truck. It's very, it has not changed since 2,000-3,000 years ago. If you hear about shepherds in the Bible, they are doing it the exact same way. It's really powerful and it's really, really impressive. But with that toast that they were doing, I want you to notice kind of 2 main things. Number one, when he tells Philip that they're about to do a toast, he does the Catholic cross. And that's a big thing because Georgian Orthodox is very big in Georgia. They have one of the largest Orthodox churches over there. It's 4 stories high and then has a 2-story basement, and it is one of the most beautiful buildings I've ever seen. They are very, very, very big on religious culture over there. That being said, if you could read what he was talking about, he wasn't talking about God. He was talking about shrines. He was talking about Theodore. If I remember correctly, Theodore is an old shepherd that has died, and they now believe his spirit protects that region, which is kind of odd when he's basically telling Philip, oh, we're praying to God, and immediately starts talking about shrines and blessings. We're crossing into different areas where there's different shrines, so we want to make sure we honor them, but we want to make sure also that we have safe travel and peace going into these different places. That is a very integral part about ritual, is that ritual is really about survival. Ritual has to do, its purpose is usually about survival in some sort. It's usually about manifesting something that you need to survive. It's about bringing you good luck. It's about bringing, and sometimes harm to others that are trying to harm you. And ritual, no matter what its origins, is really good at surviving by latching on to other rituals. So in this case, you'll see, if it's on the next slide, that's not the next slide. If on the one slide that we have, it is a Orthodox church where they're sacrificing lambs. And which is kind of odd, because if you're in the church, especially now, especially if you're in a Christian church, sacrificing animals is not relevant anymore, but they still do it. And they do it because there are pagan rituals that are still very relevant to them in Georgia, and they still believe bring them good luck, bring them honor, that they've incorporated it into the rituals that they have in the Christian church. So again, it just shows you their rituals are all about bringing about a sort of survival. I'm going to show the next slide. I want to ask, is anyone here squeamish? Okay, so to explain what this is before I show it, this is a picture that Philip Halsinger took in Haiti. And in Haiti, the main practicing religion is voodoo. And voodoo has different levels. You have the surface level voodoo, which is for tourists, and that's the one that has charms, that has candles. You might see the funny looking voodoo doll, and no one really takes it seriously. And then beyond that, you start having real voodoo. Real voodoo is different. It is a different level of commitment. And the farther down into those levels you get, the more you see how extreme the rituals become, because they are trying to manifest more extreme results. So Philip, he spent 6 weeks traveling with a group of practicing voodoo witches and magicians, and was able to make it to like the 3rd or 4th level. And they have this huge gathering, and what they do in Haiti for voodoo is they will take a kid, and one of them is that they will sacrifice a live chicken over them. And the importance of that is that they're kind of spilling life to bring about new life, and they could be doing this for a multitude of reasons. They could be doing this to bring about good luck. They could be doing this to bless the kid. They could be doing this to bring harm to somebody else. It kind of changes, but it is a very extreme commitment to survival, because in Haiti, survival is kind of the name of the game. A lot of, especially now, how destabilized things are in most third world countries, your main goal is survival. And so you just start to see rituals just get more and more extreme. Documenting something like this is very, very difficult, because if you just decide to kind of walk in and participate, number one, you're not going to be allowed to see it, and number two, they're going to change the way they do it, because now they have new, fresh eyes. They don't know how those people are going to take that on. You have to work your way into that, which is why it took him 6 weeks to get this one photo. This is the church where we were talking about where they sacrifice lambs. It's part of bringing about the kind of incorporating old kind of pagan rituals into modern Christian ones with the Orthodox Church. So now we kind of are understanding what is ritual and what it kind of incorporates and what its roots are. The big question, the question that I have when I go on trips like this is, how do you capture ritual? And it's difficult. I mean, it took 6 weeks to get one photo for Philip. For Georgia, it took him 8 years of just going back and constantly working with these people. So the process is difficult. The first thing is that you have to kiss comfort goodbye. There's no way you can get the authentic truth of a culture from a 4 or 5 star resort hotel bedroom every night. When we were filming in Tusheti, this is at that place where you just saw the clip. We were there at the same time as National Geographic, and we were both competing for a very similar story. There's a doctor that lives up there, that he lives in one of the highest towns. He lives quite literally in a castle. They were filming him. We were also filming him, as well as following the shepherds. The difference is that I slept on like a fur blanket, and they went back every day to their hotel in Tel Aviv. And the difference in that, what we were able to capture, is that our story came out, theirs did not. And that's because they were not able to befriend and get close enough with these shepherds to be able to actually capture their rituals, capture their mentalities, capture what makes their life, their way of life so important to them, and why it has also been able to stay alive so long. So when you're doing this stuff, you have to understand you're not going to be comfortable. You're going to be really cold. You're going to be sleeping in really dirty places. You're going to stink all the time. I constantly am apologizing to people I meet. You also are just going to have to live with the fact that transportation in these places is awful. You have never been motion sick until you've ridden in the back of a covered truck going down a dirt road that is just begging for you to roll off. I have never thrown up so many times in my life. It is awful. And that's how you just get around. And you do that because to them, they think they're being hospitable. You're riding in the truck. You don't have to walk. When in reality, you are begging to walk. But you do it because you're trying to build connections and build relationships. You also do a lot of waiting. You do a lot of waiting, and then after that, you do more waiting. Working with different cultures, governments, individuals, farmers, shepherds, groups, nomads, it's all the same is that in America, we're very big on time. We're very big on being punctual, even if we think sometimes we're not. You go to a place like Ghana, they run on Ghana time, which means if they're there 30 minutes early, or if they're there 2 hours late, they were there on time. Also, again, building relationships with these groups, you're having to go through so many different channels, talk to so many different people. They're having to learn to trust you, having to learn your motives that, for instance, we're trying to get into Sacat. Do y'all know what Sacat is in El Salvador? Sacat is the new prison they built for the MS-13 gang members. And we were trying to get inside to film what it actually was like inside. 2 days, this was me, standing outside of a truck, constantly getting searched by military police. We would go, we would get searched, and we would wait. And then we would be told, you can't go. You can't go in. The next day, go back, get searched, and wait and hope that we were able to get let in. Same thing as if you're going to meet with shepherds. You're not going to be able to just walk up to the lean-to on the mountain and just start walking with them on their path. There's going to be a lot of waiting, a lot of taking time. And what that does, I think, is it helps prepare you for waiting for the moments to happen, for waiting for the rituals to naturally occur. Because if you try to force the ritual, if you try to force capturing that moment, it's not going to be real. It's going to be a fake version of it. And then for me, if you're doing video or film, it's know your gear. I learned when I first started, I was really big on imagery, capturing the most gorgeous images above all else, because I thought the imagery is what told the story, which is why I ended up carrying an 18-pound camera with about 25 pounds of gear on my back, walking 20 miles with shepherds that don't believe in roads. There would be a switchback going straight up a hill. And these 80-year-old men who are smoking 2 packs a day that look like walking death just go straight up. And me, I'm standing on the hillside and I can see the ground. It's that steep. And I remember looking at Philip with this huge camera on me and all this stuff, and I'm just thinking, I'm going to die here. It's going to be great. So understanding and knowing the gear that will help you capture the story is, if you're the documenter, is single-handedly one of the most important things that you have. This is very typical for me. When I can sleep, I try to, but all of this gear that you see, I have to carry on my person, because the more people you bring into a situation, it's more observation, the more it changes. If you're trying to capture a really intimate ceremony, you can't bring extra people. If you're trying to move quickly with shepherds, you're trying to move quickly with military on raids, you can't have a whole bunch of people. You have to be able to move by yourself. So being able to make choices between what is serving the story and what is serving your own vanity is really important. I learned that image quality is great. Not having to keep batteries in between my legs when I sleep so that they don't drain from the cold is even better. Being able to not have to worry about, okay, I have to carry 16 pounds of memory cards because I might have to roll for this long each day, and just being able to carry tiny little cards I can fit in my pocket and roll for days on end. those are going to tell the story better than an image that's slightly prettier. In which case, then you just take that limitation. If, for the nerds here, if your highlights clip and don't hold, you learn how to tell the story with highlights that clip. You learn how to tell the story when the audio isn't great, or the audio is really good, but you can't do slow motion. You learn how to use your limitations to interpret that story and capture that ritual. There's always a way, there's always a process to get that done. And then this is the biggest one, disappear in plain sight. When you go into a culture, you're a sore thumb, no matter what. And especially if you're going to a culture where you look different, you're going to be singled out every single time. No one is going to act the same. Your goal is to disappear. The people that are very much present in their documentaries and very much present in how they film are not going to capture the true reality of what they're doing because they're inserting themselves. Again, it's science, it's observation. So the goal when you're trying to disappear in plain sight is you want to be able to quite literally film right in front of somebody and they not know you're there. And how you do that is waiting, taking your time, understanding how people perceive other people, understanding eye lines, understanding how to dress. I always dress in super dark colors, and I also walk really quietly. I used to hunt with my dad when we were little, and we would learn how to walk on leaves and not crack them and not make a bunch of noise. And that's how I walk around others. And then I'm able to walk around a room, and they're staying focused on whatever they're doing, and I'm able to get different shots and move around and not be seen. Same thing here. So we're filming MS-13 gang members, and they have been captured. They are being basically taken in through processing to go into one of these prisons. Where most filmmakers, because of the energy they bring in, they're nervous, they're scared, they are kind of fumbling, they're wearing bright things, they're dressing very normal. If you're an MS-13 gang member, you can't not see that person. So they put a camera in your face, a camera that you may not be used to. If you're a shepherd, you may have never seen a camera. My girlfriend made the point, it's like you're putting a transformer in their face or a Terminator. They're not going to act normal. What you have to do is you have to go into the situation almost completely numb. Because if you're scared, people are like horses. If you're scared, people can sense it. If you're excited, people can sense it. Understanding how to use those emotions when you're capturing these things or how to kind of cut out those emotions helps you disappear in front of people to where if you're not giving them anything, they're not going to take anything, they're not going to be paying attention to you. So in practice, taking these things that we just kind of talked about on how to capture ritual, one of the things that me and Philip were trying to do is we were filming in El Salvador, filming mostly how they handled gangs over there, because we'd all heard different things. We'd heard one side is a dictator, one side there's a savior, one side that they're being cruelly treated, the other side is that they're being given the most gracious mercy you've ever seen. So the idea is like, okay, we want to go and we want to see what these guys are actually like. And part of that is understanding their gang tattoos. Their gang tattoos, all of this is extremely ritualistic, even if it doesn't appear like it. Where those are placed, what they say, how they're done, the art style, all means something. They just aren't going to tell you. So what we did is we pulled 3 MS-13 gang members into a small room and we interviewed them. We did everything right except we got a little cocky. We thought that we could basically pull this information out of this guy in one interview, and it went horribly. The guy talked, really didn't say anything, would not talk about tattoos, would not talk about his past work in the gangs. To him, he was like, oh, I just think they look cool. So you can't be ritualistic with your approach. And what I mean by that is that you can't treat every situation the same. We thought we could treat that like a normal interview because we had done this so many times. We thought that we could walk in, we knew how to talk to the guy, we knew that he had accepted his fate, or we thought. We were going to do these things the same way, and in the end we were going to get our answer. We were going to get the same answer. You're dealing with individuals. You're dealing with different cultures. You're dealing with different rituals. Every single one is going to be slightly different. So you have to learn how to kind of cater to that. You have to learn how to find that approach. And something Philip would always tell me is he would say, go native. You have to be willing to basically become one with these people. So what he ended up doing with MS-13 and trying to understand the language is he then spent the following weeks just talking to these guys and learning their stories and learning how they thought and learning eventually what was important to them to where they would then open up to him about these secretive subjects, these hard to talk about subjects. And it's the same as you do any sort of interview. If you want to talk to somebody, you want them to tell you something personal, you can't just straight up and ask them, tell me the most personal, intimate thing about your life. They're going to look at you like you're crazy. What you have to do is you have to start talking to them and get to where you can build that rapport, build that trust, build that respect before you can start getting any sort of answers. So kind of like what we said, foreigners start with a disadvantage whenever you're trying to go native. You look different, you sound different, you think different, you walk different, you wear different clothes, you talk different. Everything about you is different, so they're going to treat you different. Your goal is to try and usurp as much of that as possible. And you will notice most of the time, most cultures are extremely hospitable, and hospitality is kind of a free gift. It's kind of odd how when you start looking at the United States, we're not that hospitable to people. We're very intimate and closed off. We like our space. We don't want people invading our space. You go out there, I mean, you can go to the poorest house you've ever been, and they're creating a 5-course meal for you. You may not want to eat any of it, but they're going to present it to you. Respect and trust, way harder to earn over there. It's no matter where you go. You have to do work with them. You have to herd sheep. You have to clean things. You have to help clean fish. You have to start getting dirty and placing yourself in their world. You have to sleep where they sleep, whether that be a dirt floor in a chicken coop, or if it's on a mattress from the 20s, or if it's under a mountain. You have to be willing to be uncomfortable, to embrace that discomfort so that you can actually be a part of their society and start to be welcomed into these inner layers of a culture. You learn more listening than talking. It sounds like a no-duh statement, but it's really easy to be asking a lot of questions and not actually getting any answers. It's a lot easier to get answers when you just let them talk. People, when you're interesting, they like to talk, especially when the subject is themselves. They like to talk about things they're interested in. They like to talk about things that are important to them. Lots of cultures love talking about family history. All those conversations you had where grandma was talking about grandpa doing this and the uncles doing that and the cousins doing this and the forefathers coming from this place, pay attention to that, because you go to a different country and you're able to talk that way, they're going to latch on to you so quickly. You're going to become part of the family before dinner is over. And then the same thing is once they get talking, don't interrupt. Just let them talk. When they start entering a ritual, don't ask questions, don't interrupt. Just take it in. You can always ask questions afterwards. If you interrupt, you break the flow. It's kind of like an artist. When they're in the moment, when they're painting, when they're writing, you break flow, it's kind of ruined. It's never going to be the same again. Your heart and integrity speak louder than your words. People are really good to know if you're kind of BSing your way through a relationship. If they can tell that you are only talking to them to learn something, they're going to close off to you immediately because you just want something from them. There's no personal relationship. It's all artificial. They're not interested. You have to be willing to learn and accept and understand that person, whether you agree with them or not. You have to be willing to listen to them, and you have to be willing to show an interest in them, and you have to be willing to show an interest in what they're interested in, even if it's something brutal, even if it's something odd or otherworldly or makes zero sense to you. It's really good to be able to find pieces of that maybe you don't like, but you can comprehend. At that point, then they feel like, okay, you're wanting to know them as a person. They're going to start welcoming you into the corners, into the areas, into the rooms that they don't show outsiders. They're only, insiders only. And then this is the most important thing. And I learned this from Philip, and I've seen this with my own eyes. Don't just go back. When you go to a place that maybe has visitors, like for instance, Tusheti. When we went to Tusheti, they get visitors all the time. There's lots of tourism in the main cities. There's even tourism out in the mountains where there's nothing. It's lots of like ADV bikers and adventurers and backpackers. The one thing they all have in common is they never come back. They go once and they're never seen again. So they're like, oh, friendly, they get to know you, and they know like, it's frivolous because they're not coming back. We're just going to be hospitable. If you come back, that will mean more to them than anything you could possibly give them, because all of a sudden they realize they're a part of your life now. And relationship and connections in these different areas is more valuable than gold. These people want connection. Every other continent I've been to, they want connection. It doesn't matter who they are. We all want connection. Part of connection is ritual, is participating and learning and becoming a part of these things and understanding these things. If you come back, they're going to take that as you want to know more about me. I'm willing to show you more about me, which might be these rituals. Perfect example, and I'm going to end with this. This is up in Tusheti. These dogs are probably the most important thing in the entire country of Georgia. They are called guardian dogs. They are the last non-domesticated breed of dogs in the world. And they live for these things, all the sheep. They are not trained, they are not taught, they are not bred like we would breed dogs for certain traits. Everything they teach to each other. How they breed the dogs is they put a male dog and a female dog in a ring. If they don't kill each other and the dogs like each other, they'll have puppies, everyone's happy. If they don't like each other, they'll either kill each other or run off. So it's very important to them that the purity of the rituals of how these dogs are raised is important. Philip has been going to this same flock for 8 years. He has seen these dogs that have an average lifespan of about 4 years because it's so dangerous out there. He has seen these dogs go from puppies to adults to death and have their own litters. This dog, his name is Tato. Tato is named after Philip's daughter. He knew Tato the day that Tato was born. He has a beautiful picture that I can't show because it's owned by his agent, but it's a beautiful picture of Tato the day after he's been born. He's in a sack on the side of a horse going through the mountains because he was too little to walk. His mother was like one of the strongest, most fierce guardian dogs he had ever known, to the point where Philip almost froze to death one night, and the mother laid on top of him and eventually dragged him into her den with her other puppies to keep Philip warm, because apparently Philip was now one of her puppies. We came back. It had been 2 years since Philip had seen Tato. And Tato, last time he saw him, he had a spiked collar, which is never a good sign. That means they're not able to defend themselves from other dogs or bears or wolves. And he was skinny. He was really just not looking good. We come back 2 years later, and it was like a Disney movie. I see this massive dog jump over multiple fences and go up and just start mauling him with kisses. And then we learn later that that's Tato. So if the dog remembers you 2 years later, imagine the people. When the shepherds show up, they're so excited to see Philip. They're telling them about grandkids. They're telling him about marriages. They're telling him about kids going to schools, about different hobbies. One is saying how he wants to start a school in his basement. We're like, that's kind of weird. There's other ones that's like making his own alcohol. They're excited to see, and because of that, we get to witness something that Philip had never seen before. Right before this moment happens, they have about 2,000 sheep up here. They go to let them out. He got to see a part of ritual that he had never been allowed to see before. In Georgia, they speak Georgian, but they have an even older language called Tushetian. And no one speaks Tushetian. It is a dead language. One of the shepherds had this crumpled up, wadded book that was not Georgian, and he started reading from it. And it was a blessing as well as kind of a ode to shepherds' way of life. And we found out that he would read this to the other shepherds every morning before they started the migration. They just never allowed Philip to see it. It was very personal. It was very intimate. It was a part of their culture that no one else knew about, a culture that was dying or dead. And because Philip came back year after year after year, he was finally able to see that and finally able to experience that. And I was lucky enough to experience that with him. So take it from everything. If you want to experience ritual, you have to be able to experience a relationship, because without the relationship, you're not going to be let in. And to experience a relationship, it's just like every relationship here. You have to put in effort. You have to put in time. You have to put in part of yourself. You have to be willing to get dirty, get uncomfortable. You have to be willing to basically understand and learn about somebody and learn how to understand them using what you know and using your worldview. And from that, you then take that, you grow, you learn from their rituals, you learn from who they are, and then you can go to the next one, and the next one, and next one, and keep learning stories. So, if you want to capture ritual, you've got to learn how to kind of capture relationships and capture people. And that's pretty much it. So, hope you enjoy.